All right, Algebra 1. I'm on page 692. This is example 4. Okay, so we have two jobs here. The first job it says simplify. Okay, so we will factor both the numerator and the denominator, and then we'll see what cancels. Remember, this is a fraction, so we'll see what can cancel out of that. So the first step is simplify. The second step is what we did yesterday, which is state the excluded values. Remember, the numbers that can't work for the denominator. So again, let's look to what we can factor on this numerator. So this is a binomial on top. My first thought is, do we have a greatest common factor? My second thought would be difference of squares. It looks like it's a greatest common factor problem. 2 and 18 have a greatest common factor of 2. All right, so if I factor out a 2, it becomes 2 over r plus 9, right? Remember, factoring is like division. And if we did distribute, if we multiplied that 2 back, we would end up with 2r plus 18. Now on the bottom, we need to factor this trinomial, right? So I put my parentheses down here because a is 1. Plus minus gives me plus minus. Since a is 1, it's just r. And now we need the factors of negative 9 that add to 8, right? So I think it's positive 9 and negative 1. So 9 and a 1, right? 9 times negative 1 is negative 9. 9 minus 1 is 8. Okay, so what we have done right now is we have simplified this by factoring. Now, we're going to take a quick pause, and we're going to look at our two answers down here. We're going to figure out what r can't equal. Remember, so we'll set both of these to 0. We'll say r plus 9 equals 0, and then r minus 1 equals 0. We are finding the excluded values. So obviously r can't equal negative 9, and r can't equal 1. These are the excluded values. If r was negative 9 or if r was 1, this would have a 0 on the denominator. Okay, so let's go back to our blue step here because we're not quite done simplifying. I just want to make sure once we factor, once we expand, right? Expand means pull things apart. When we expand the bottom, that's when we're going to look for the excluded values. But we still need to simplify. So let's come to the top. Do you guys see how this binomial and this binomial are the same? Well, what can we do? If they're the same, they cancel. So the simplified version of this is 2 over r minus 1. All right? So we say 2 over r minus 1 is the simplified version of that, which was the first part of our problem. And the excluded values are both of these, negative 9 and 1. Okay? Now remember, you can't just simplify to the end and look for the excluded values because you would get 1 for r here, but you would lose the negative 9. Okay? So once you expand the bottom, once you factor the bottom, look for excluded values, and then continue. All right, so let's look at 4a, which is below this guided practice 4a. It's another binomial, n plus 3 over a trinomial, which is n squared plus 10n plus 21. Okay? So looking at these two things, can the top be expanded? Can we factor the top? It's a binomial, but it doesn't have a greatest common factor, and it's not a difference of squares problem. So no, the top just stays what it is. What we need to do is we need to factor, we need to expand the bottom, right? We need to expand the bottom there. So plus plus is plus plus. Since a is 1, this is n and n. And what are the factors of 21 that add to 10? Well, it's 3 and 7, right? So we have n plus 3 and n plus 7. So hopefully some of you guys are getting pretty good at finding the excluded values. Remember, the excluded values will always be opposite of these two. So we say n plus 7 equals 0 and n plus 3 equals 0. Subtract 3, right? Subtract 7. So n can't equal negative 7, and n can't equal negative 3. Reminder that these two are the excluded values. Now let's go back up to that top stuff, the top blue problem, and see if there's something we can cancel. Do you see something? How about these two binomials, right? They cancel, right? So they're both gone. All right, so if everything's gone on the top, what's left? A 1, right? There was a 1 that was timesing this binomial, so the 1 stays on top. Then we have that n plus 7 on the bottom. Okay, so this fraction is the simplified version of this fraction, but n can equal -7 and it can't equal -3. Okay, guys, go over one page of 693. I want you to try problem 8 with me. Is it problem 8? Yeah, let's look at problem 8. Okay, last one we're going to do here. So I got 2r minus 12 over r squared minus 36. All right, so the top one is a binomial and the bottom one is a binomial. Although we will expand them differently. So the top one, greatest common factor, right? There's a 2 that goes into both these numbers, so let's take a 2 out. And then that leaves us with r minus 6, right? 12 divided by 2 is 6. Remember, you can always distribute your 2 back to check and see if it works, right? 2 times r is 2r, and 2 times the -6 would be -12. Now, the bottom one's a little different because even though it's a binomial, there's 2 things here, it's not a greatest common factor problem, right? It is a difference of squares problem. R squared is perfect, and 36 is perfect, and difference means subtraction. So difference of squares, we have 2 sets of parentheses. The signs are always plus minus. And then remember, the first term in each binomial, here and here, we just square root r squared, which is r. Now to get the second number, we square root 36, which is 6. All right, let's stop. Since we have expanded the bottom, let's look for our 2 excluded values. It looks like remember, it's the opposite. R can't equal -6, and R can't equal +6. All right, those are the excluded values from these 2 things if we set them equal to 0. Now let's look to see if we can cancel this binomial, and that binomial can cancel. So I have 2 over r plus 6, and we leave it like that. So some people might wonder, can we cancel this 2 and the 6, or can we reduce it? Well, no, because the 2 is also being divided by the r plus, so we just leave it like this. So this is the simplified version of that, and these are the 2 excluded values. Okay, guys, I want you to try a couple of problems for me. Go to page 693, please. I want you to look at number 6 and number 7. You have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. Otherwise, good luck.